Hello and welcome. We are just going to have a quick look at the use of hydrogen as a fuel, but we want to compare that with what we're using currently. So if you think of what we use for powering our vehicles currently, it's mainly petrol, diesel, and sometimes it can be ethanol for some cars, especially in some countries around the world. And the problem with these types of fuel is that they produce carbon dioxide, they produce sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, which contribute to pollution. So these contribute to acid rain. This contributes to the greenhouse effect. Or should we say it contributes to global warming through the greenhouse effect. We also have smog, which makes puts a kind of polluting cloud over cities, and for ethanol we don't have necessarily the sulfur dioxide and the nitrogen oxides, but we still have the CO2. And while we can say that ethanol is slightly more environmentally friendly, we still do have to produce it through fermentation, and that comes from crop plants, and sometimes there are issues with using crop plants because we have to clear land in order to grow those crop plants. So one possible alternative to all of this is the use of hydrogen as a fuel. And hydrogen has the one key advantage in that it only produces water vapor as a waste product. It doesn't produce any carbon dioxide or the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides or any CO2, and therefore it's seen as something that is potentially a good fuel to use. Now there are a couple of pluses and minuses with hydrogen. We said there's less pollutants and less need for fossil fuels, but the minuses, on the minus side, they're quite expensive to make. It's quite difficult to provide the hydrogen, and there's safety issues as well. By providing hydrogen, I mean having systems like hydrogen stations that would provide the hydrogen to the cars. Safety can be an issue as well because hydrogen is quite flammable, almost, and in fact explosive, and having that in the car stored in a particular way or in a safe way could be a problem. There are two types of ways we can use the hydrogen. One is the combustion engine, so that actually burns the hydrogen, but in that case, because hydrogen is a gas, it's difficult to store. It has to be stored in tanks at high pressure, and it might even be at such high pressures that it's stored as a liquid, and it's quite expensive. It's an expensive process, especially to get it into a liquid form, to get it into your car. And of course then there is the danger of a high pressure explosive gas in the car, with all its associated dangers. The other way we can use hydrogen is using these things called fuel cells. Now they don't require the burning of hydrogen. They actually have a chemical reaction that goes on inside them, and that produces electricity, heat and water. The heat and water is given out. The electricity is used to power the car. And in this way we don't burn the hydrogen, so there are less issues in that way. However, there are still some concerns with the use of fuel cells in terms of making it efficient enough and making us able to use it widely for transportation. So just the last thing I want to quickly cover is the pluses and minuses of fuel cells. You don't actually need to know how these things work. There are no details that you need to remember for the hydrogen fuel cell, but you might be given some information in the exam paper, and you might have to do an evaluation of some sort. But these are the kinds of things that might be seen as pluses and minuses for our fuel cells. Not to say that these are ones that are listed and you have to learn, but these are the kinds of directions you might want to go in if you're given some information about fuel cells and you have to look at pluses and minuses. So we've got the reduction of pollution, as we said. We've got efficiency pluses here. It's higher, can be more highly efficient than diesel or gas engines, and maintenance can be more simple because there are less moving parts. On the minus side, production, transportation and distribution, driving range is slightly shorter, refueling and starting times are longer and currently expensive to produce. You can actually read this in your time, you don't need me to sit here reading it to you. Okay, but that's an overview of our use of hydrogen. Quite dense information in a couple of slides here, but certainly something that you need to know about. So that's me done and finished with this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.